Good morning and welcome back to the Daily Thread.
Long layoff. Whoa.
Oh my goodness, it's been a
It's a
while.
long layoff. Wow. I don't know. Feels like we've been away 3 years.
There's a lot to discuss.
Listen, the world keeps rotating,
Yeah, right.
and things keep happening, and there's a lot of 7 billion people on the planet, all very complicated in their own individual way. So
Yeah.
7 billion people can make a lot of trouble.
Yeah, but you know what? I think Baruch Hashem, it was for the most part pretty quiet in the world over Yom Tov.
Yes. Baruch
Sometimes, unfortunately, you turn on your phone after such a long layoff and God knows what happens. But it's Baruch Hashem. It seemed like here in Israel, everything went smooth.
Well, yeah, it was a beautiful Yom Tov, wherever you are. A lot of people traveling back as we speak.
Yeah, today's the day.
From Israel. I have friends that live here in the five towns, but they also own homes. And whether you keep 1 or 2 days, I don't know if we discussed this previously, because after Yom Tov and all that food and all that drinking and all that eating, mostly eating, not so much drinking.
A lot of food.
I think most of your brain gets everything gets deleted.
And I'll tell you, yesterday at that last meal, after dancing Simchas Torah, and like my in-laws threw down a regular meal.
Yeah,
they even had guests. And
at some anybody eat?
People were eating. And at some point during the main course, I just fell asleep. I fell asleep on.
Well, we did the same thing, but I wanted to say that. Before I get to the food part, I wanted to say that we have friends that live here in the five towns who keep 1 day Yom Tov.
Right.
There's a whole
they're usually
combination of reasons why you either keep 1 or 2 days Yom Tov, and we're not poskim. We're not going to issue a psak here. But I spoke to someone who I thought came in this morning because they were on the midnight flight last night. And he said that he landed last night. He left 3 o'clock in the afternoon yesterday from Ben Gurion Airport because it wasn't Yom Tov for him yesterday.
Yeah, that's
and he got here at 11 o'clock last night, and he was in this office this morning at 9 o'clock. On food, listen, in our house, we also had a lavish amount of food. I was telling Ima, your mother, and my
that's
wife,
my mother is?
Yes. Oh. Just we have to start from the beginning again.
Right. Okay.
Starting Bereshis, we got to
Someone came over to me in shul.
Assume nothing.
Someone came over to me in shul and said, I listened to the Daily Thread podcast. And at first I didn't know that was your father. I thought you were just squaring up against someone who's like triple your age.
Okay, triple, not quadruple, actually, yeah.
It's 5 times?
What? I don't know.
5 times?
I think, of course. It's many years.
Not that far off from
You're
triple.
You're the youngest of 6 children. So obviously there's a significant amount of years between us, but it's your benefit because I was older and wiser when you were born.
I always say I kept you guys young.
Well, we were talking about food. So the thing I wanted to say about food was that even though you had these upscale, lavish meals in shul, still when you came home, there was a meal waiting for us in our house anyway. And I remember looking in the refrigerator before Yom Tov started, and there wasn't a half an inch where you could fit anything else in.
Yeah.
And then after all the meals and all the kids were there, a lot of your nieces and nephews were there, Dini and Eliezer's kids, Yochanan and Chani's kids, and Nissen, your brother Nissen came over.
Well, now you can't leave anybody out. Dovi and Malki.
Well, I'm talking about the last 2 days specifically.
Yeah.
I looked at the refrigerator last night, and it also was still stuffed. There wasn't room for anything.
So you'll have dinner for a few weeks now, probably.
Well, I'm planning on going to Florida Sunday, so we got to figure out how we're going to do this from Florida.
We're going to have to figure that out. But I'll tell you something interesting in regards to the food. No matter how much you eat throughout Yom Tov, if you go 5-6 hours without eating, you're ultimately going to be hungry again. Like everyone's saying, oh my gosh, I ate so much over Yom Tov, but like you woke up this morning and you were likely hungry and you need to eat again. So I'm never going to eat again. Yes, you are. You're probably going to eat breakfast today.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody in shul about, I was thinking back to Yom Kippur.
Yeah.
And how hungry we were. Yeah,
right?
Yom Kippur around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. You really, really get hungry.
We never really spoke about how people break their fast in Yom Kippur. It varies, I think.
Did I tell you about my friend's father, who many years ago told me that when he was in the concentration camps, that on Yom Kippur, the Nazis would give them extra special, better food than usual. And of course, It was Yom Kippur.
Right.
And he said the next day after Yom Kippur, they fed them absolutely nothing.
Right.
So I said to him at the time, well, so what did you do? He said, we fasted 2 days.
I find
Different people.
I find that it's a lot of hype in terms of, nowadays, the way we eat before a fast and the way we go crazy about fasting. I think that, first of all, fasting is something that has become pretty popular in the nutrition world, and people dieting, like Elon Musk fasts pretty often, and
He does. Yeah.
and that's how he says he looks so good.
Oh, yeah.
But anyways, like, I doubt that people who fast, who don't need to fast, aren't preparing the way we prepare for fasts and not going as crazy as we go. I think just the fact that we cannot eat or drink, we get a little bit hysterical.
Well, I texted you this morning when we were discussing what time to meet, and I think it's a fair assessment about how much time. What do you remember about Yom Tov more, the davening or the eating?
Well, it depends where you daven.
But what? I'm not denigrating anything, and I'm not being cynical. I'm just saying that a huge amount of emphasis is put on the cuisine.
Well, they're both
Yom Tov,
mitzvahs,
and that's how you celebrate Yom Tov. That's not a bad thing.
No, they're both mitzvahs.
They're both important. But my question was, which one gets an inordinate amount of attention over the other?
I think
Are they both equal?
Goes without saying that the food gets an inordinate amount of attention.
Well, I would say, first of all, it's cold here in New York. You have heat on in the office. I smell it.
Is it not?
It's the first time that it's on?
Yeah, you smell it? It smells good, no?
I smell it, yeah. It smells like you just put the heat on, actually.
For the first time. It's usually freezing in here.
Well, it's cold outside here in New York today. I imagine that this is being seen other places other than New York, where it's pretty nice outside still. But it's cold here. It's like 43 degrees this morning.
Listen, I think considering how late Sukkot was this year, the fact that the weather was, for the most part, amazing.
Nothing came out as was anticipated. Everybody was experts on meteorological experts over the summer. Oh, Yom Tov this year is going to be freezing. Even I said it and wrote it in the.
I don't think it was freezing. You thought it was freezing?
No. I remember. We reminisced here before.
Yeah, we said it was going to be cold.
We said we were going to wear winter coats in the sukkah.
I think during the day
it was outstanding. The weather was beautiful here in New York.
Yeah, really, it really
Florida was probably very, very hot. Israel was beautiful.
Israel looked beautiful.
So I imagine the only place that were really cold were probably Alaska and Chicago, maybe.
Yeah.
Chicago's always cold.
Chicago's always cold.
Yeah, especially when it comes to Yom Tov. Just the cold thing pops in.
Yeah.
It's Yom Tov is coming. Let's get cold out there, folks.
So let's get to our stories for today. So first really important story is the Israeli elections.
Yes.
I know people, again, they might give you a headache to hear about the Israeli elections, but at the end of the day, these elections are super important, especially for the Haredim in Eretz Yisrael, to sort of vote in a right-wing government. Bibi Netanyahu is trying to form that government. And
the election process is very different in Israel than it is here in the United States. Here in the United States, you pretty much, in normal times, who won the election almost that same evening. That changed in 2020 when mostly the Democrats discovered all kinds of ways to cheat on elections. So, an election could be won by a candidate, and then someone shows up at 2 a.m. with a trunk full of ballots that he forgot to drop off. Hopefully they figured out a way to detect that and to avoid that this time around. Not that I'm anti-Democrat, but it just happens to be.
Sounds pretty anti-Democrat.
It's one of their signature things that they know how to do. So in Israel, even though there'll be elections on November 1st, it could take as much as 6 weeks until you're going to know who's going to lead the government. Because they have to go. It's a parliamentary system.
Why is it so important, this election, more than the others? That we mentioned that Rav Gershon Edelstein said that during Yom Naram to daven for the elections.
Well, listen, all the elections are very important as
it seems like this one
those who have
holds
grown up have seen. You're talking about in Israel per se, not necessarily.
No, I'm talking about in Israel specifically right now.
Well, you see that the left in Israel had their way over the last couple of years.
And it was a disaster. If you think inflation is bad here in America and you think the home prices, and it's terrible in Eretz Yisrael.
I don't know what's going on with prices in Eretz Yisrael. When I think of Israel, and I think a lot of people, when they think of Israel, they think in the long picture, Israel's security, Israel's safety in the world, their relationship with the United States that provides so much money. And, Israel is an island in a sea of hostility. surrounded by potential enemies, and during the Trump administration and the Abraham Accords, he managed to derail that negative momentum that was always present with Israel being under threat by making peace between Israel and several of the Gulf states, specifically United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Sudan, and Morocco, which was a very big move. The Biden administration is trying to do the opposite. There's something very weird going on in the world, and that is that, America is not digging for oil, so your gasoline prices are sky high. We're trying to get oil from Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia reduced their production of oil. Biden said they're going to be sorry for that. But Saudi Arabia's problem with the United States is really the different types of ways that they observe Islam. Iran is one way, and Saudi Arabia is a different way. And Iran would love to destroy Saudi Arabia almost as much as they want to.
This is like a master class on Middle East.
Almost as much as they want to destroy Israel. So I don't want to give a class in international affairs, but I just want to say that there's something weird going on in that the United States is trying to make a deal with Iran, okay, so that they could build a nuclear weapon, and in exchange for that, they will be able to get Iranian oil, which international sanctions now means that people have to boycott Iranian oil. But Iran is supplying drones to Russia to use what they call killer drones. Iran is supplying. Listen, Iran is supplying killer drones to Russia where they're killing Ukrainians, and America is giving billions of dollars in weapons to Ukraine to defend against the Russians.
I feel like America is funding both sides here.
Well, there's a big contradiction going on. The Iran is giving killer weaponry to the Russians to kill Ukrainians. America is pumping in billions of dollars to Ukraine to kill Russians. So America is right
caught in the middle. It sounds like a mess.
That is a big mess. And you mentioned Elon Musk. Elon Musk introduced a peace plan. He wanted to. By the way, they said last night that he's going to be taking over Twitter in about 2 weeks.
Really?
Yeah.
I missed that. That's a story.
Yeah, that's very big. That's a game changer. That could change the way people communicate in the world, because right now here in the United States, the last couple of years, we have been dealing with a regime, a leadership that wants to suppress your ability to speak freely.
100%. I think that's a story worth mentioning. Elon Musk going to be taking over Twitter.
Yeah, you're looking
at a $44 billion deal.
Yeah, I think he's overpaying.
You think he's overpaying?
But it's free. But it really is the ultimate level of what free speech should be about. And free speech is so important that First Amendment, your ability to express yourself freely.
I haven't seen anything about this, by the way, on Twitter about Elon Musk buying it.
Well, why don't you just look on the regular news, not on Twitter.
Regular news?
Maybe Twitter's trying to suppress the information.
Could be. I do see Elon Musk tweeted, "Please buy my perfume so I can buy Twitter."
Yeah, I didn't know he has a perfume.
Listen, Elon Musk has everything. There's another story that I think is so. First of all, again, Israel. I read an article over Yom Tov about Benjamin Netanyahu really, really lobbying to the Haredim and to the right wing to try to come together and help him form a government so he could be voted in. I personally love Benjamin Netanyahu. Most of my life, he's been Prime Minister of Israel.
Right.
Before him, I think, was Ehud Olmert and Ariel Sharon.
He was Prime Minister for a long time. And listen, he is about, I think, 74, 75 years old.
And, people always wish he maybe, no one ever is going to love everybody, but I think if you look at Ariel Sharon was a disaster and Ehud Olmert is a disaster, who's a crooked politician. Benjamin Netanyahu, who served in the IDF, and
I'm getting, older leaders are dangerous, more dangerous than younger leaders.
Older leaders,
yeah. Ariel Sharon was a great warrior and a great leader of Israel, but when he hit his 70s, he started thinking to himself, "How are people going to remember me? I want them to remember me for peace."
Yeah, and
they pulled out of Gush Katif. He pulled out 10,000 people.
That's a disaster. That was a disaster, by the way.
So I don't think Netanyahu was like that. Rabin was like that too. He was a warrior. He was a fighter. He was a general. He played an important role in the 1967 war when Israel recaptured East Jerusalem. But then when he got older, he got softer.
And Bibi is not young.
He wanted to make the Oslo Accords, and he shook Arafat's hand on the lawn of the White House when Jimmy Carter was president. And with Joe Biden, it's absolutely it's an absurd. It's at an absurd point because when a leader has no political future, there's nothing at stake for him. You see,
Yeah.
When Bill Clinton was president, he was 43 years old. He was concerned about the future. How's he going to parlay this leadership business as being president into big bucks, which he did turn into big bucks.
Of course he did.
Barack Obama, who was also very young when he became president, about 45 years old, also parlayed it into hundreds of millions of dollars, and he's concerned about what he's going to be involved in going forward. But if you're, Joe Biden and you're 80 years old and you've been in the leadership for 55 years, you don't have to worry about what your political future is going to be.
Especially when Hunter is so successful, I don't think you need to do anything. You just take money from your son Hunter.
Well, we haven't heard even 1% of that story yet.
I know.
That's still going to.
Well, that's what we're hoping when
down.
Elon Musk takes over Twitter. Perhaps we can have free speech again.
Yeah, I hope so. I think that's the objective. I think one of the unique things about Hunter Biden is pretty much has nothing to do with Israel or the Jewish people. So that's a very unusual story.
Yeah, that's
generally speaking. What else do you have on your list there?
So another story that's worth mentioning is the story of Daryl Brooks. Daryl Brooks is the person who in Wisconsin drove his car through a parade.
Oh, yes.
Killing and injuring dozens of people.
Right.
And in a strange turn of events, he is his own defense attorney at the trial, at his own trial. Mm-hmm. And what defense is he sort of going with when witnesses and officers take the stand to testify against him, Daryl Brooks, and they mention him by name? You, Daryl Brooks, were in the car that drove and hurt so many people. He says, I do not know who you are referring to. I do not identify as that name, nor I want to be mentioned with that name, Daryl Brooks. It's sort of like we kind of expect that, because the world went into this mode and this zone of you can identify and be whoever you want to be. So what's stopping a criminal from saying, oh, that wasn't me. That wasn't me. That's not my name. I shaved my head. I changed my look. Mm-hmm. That's not even my gender. So, what do you expect?
The little bit I know about that story is that, number one, is that he's insane.
Yeah, he's absolutely insane. He has his own defense.
It's very difficult to discuss insane things in a logical, reasonable way. Very difficult, I think. But that leads us to the American election, I think, by the way, where we have to stem the tide of this craziness.
Listen, everyone should just go out and vote. That's all we could say. But some of these videos of Daryl Brooks, every single thing that the prosecution says, he goes, I object, and the judge goes overruled, and it happens every 30 seconds because he's not an attorney. He's not even sane. Yeah. But it's such a mockery because, again, there are people who take the stand who lost loved ones.
Is there a jury?
There's a jury, and they constantly are sending in and out the jury because if he's opening his mouth. And you know what? He's
going to be convicted, and he's going to be psychologically evaluated again, and he's going to be determined that he's insane.
Then what?
And they'll put him away for in some institution for a long time where he'll have 3 meals a day and a large screen TV.
Probably more than he had before.
Everything that he needs. He just won't be able to push anybody off a subway platform or run anybody over. So actually, in a way, you could sense that they could be depriving him of his rights to be free.
Interesting. Another headline that really made waves right after Yom Tov is what's happening in Australia.
Okay, what's happening in Australia?
Do you not know what happened in Australia over Yom Tov?
Give me a hint.
About them walking back Jerusalem as...
Oh, moving their embassy?
Yeah.
To
Tel Aviv.
I didn't see that.
You really didn't?
I really didn't see that.
Wow. So I'm breaking a story to you.
I always click on the Israeli news in the morning.
So let me bring you up to speed and our listeners. In reversal, Australia won't recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital. Yeah. Australia's new left-leaning government is reversing the decision they made nearly 4 years ago under a conservative administration move to move the country's embassy in Israel to Jerusalem.
Yeah.
So they are moving, or they're deciding not to move. They're not recognizing Jerusalem as Israel's capital.
Well, they must have been under blistering pressure not to move their embassy to Jerusalem. Australia is an important ally of Israel and the United States. There's this little island there in the big wide ocean. No one's attacking them because no one can reach them without getting into a warship or a rowboat. But these countries that announced that they're moving their embassies to Israel are under blistering pressure. Also under pressure are the Arab countries, especially the ones that ally themselves with the Palestinians, with the Palestinian Authority, because the more countries that recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital, it decreases the chance. To me, it's a crazy fantasy, crazy dream that someday there's going to be two states. Israel and Palestine.
The Biden government is that's what the position they're taking is. They want a two-state solution.
That's what they say they want, because
and Yair Lapid also wants the current prime minister of Israel wants a two-state solution.
You know what? Yair Lapid is a leftist, not a bad guy.
Oh, he hates Haredim.
But point is this: he could afford to say that he's for a two-state solution
because he's not going to be.
Because the Palestinians are not for a two-state solution. Because their view of a two-state solution means that all the people that live in Judea and Samaria, 600,000 people, that's the first condition, out. Have to leave their homes and give it over to the Palestinian people. That's one major condition. Then, of course, Israel has to withdraw from East Jerusalem, which means giving up sovereignty over the Kotel.
That's not going to happen.
All right, so you could afford to say that you're a two-state solution.
I don't understand.
Because it's not happening. It's impossible to happen.
How is it impossible? I'm sure people thought it would be impossible for Israel to give over Gush Katif as well. And
that was 10,000, but you're right, but that was 10,000 people.
But that was 10,000 people that they just uprooted them and kicked them out and expelled them.
Listen,
that was more possible?
In Martha's Vineyard, they couldn't deal with 50 Venezuelans. They were in a panic. What they're going to do with 50 Venezuelans, that Governor DeSantis from Florida flew into Massachusetts. I mean, you talk about 600,000 people. And that's the fundamental condition of the Palestinian Authority, is that Judea Samaria has to be part of the Palestinian state. And not only that, the most anti-Semitic, the most racist aspect of the entire thing is, even if there is a two-state solution, why can't a Jew live in a so-called, quote-unquote, Arab country? A Jew should be allowed to live anywhere they want in the world, like anybody else.
Well, unfortunately, I mean...
Yeah, but you can't. Yeah, unfortunately, that's the fact. But you can't accept that. You can't accept that. That certainly can't be an element of a peace deal between that negotiations and fighting that's been going on for 75 years. That can't be an element of. That's how you reach peace.
I think the common denominator here of all the stories that we brought up and mentioned so far is just how important it is for everyone to get out and vote. And it doesn't matter where you live. It doesn't matter if my vote doesn't count. Your vote counts. Your vote counts wherever you are. It's so important to go out and vote. America, Israel, no matter where you are.
Well, I would say, you tell me if I'm wrong, that a lot of people listening to this, watching this, are in New York.
Yeah, I'd say
that's where half the country's Jews are in New York.
Half the country's Jews are in New York.
Yeah, there's 6 million Jews in the United States. There's about 2+ million Jews in the New York area.
Interesting. Okay.
So we have I was invited last night, by the way, to be on WABC to discuss what we discussed a few weeks ago about the involvement of the New York State government in yeshiva education.
Interesting. And you turned it down.
I didn't turn it down. I wanted to go on, but the host, Frank Morano, who I listen to whenever I'm up during the night thinking about what we're going to do in the podcast the next morning, he wanted me to come down to the studio. I wanted to do it live.
You couldn't do that?
I wasn't going to go down there at 2 a.m.,
Oh, come on.
So he had a woman on who was going to be on with me. Julie Globus is her name.
Yeah.
She used to run a blog site called Failed Messiah.
Oh, yeah.
Remember? Anyway, so I listened to her. I was up anyway.
So you could have drove down there at that point.
No, but I'm glad I wasn't on with her because she got it all wrong. He's going to have me on separately.
Okay.
Maybe I wrote him this morning, maybe tonight, maybe next week. But she got it all wrong because she comes to the table with a very, very bad personal experience in the From community,
yeshivas,
the From community, and she has a lot of hostility. So if you want to discuss a subject, You have to discuss it as objectively as you possibly can, and you got to leave your hostility and your anger and your prejudices. You got to leave it at home and come in and discuss it and analyze it from a reasonable, intelligent perspective. I mean, there's pros and cons to that. I'm not going to get into it now, but of course, the argument is that if I was on, I would have told Frank that the fact of the matter is you can't just focus exclusively on the mechanics of education. So what do they produce? Go into any yeshiva anywhere that you claim is not giving a secular education to their children, to their students, and find me. Let's compare the rap sheets of any yeshiva student with anybody, any student from any one of New York City's public schools, and you could pick out 100 kids. You're not going to find one offense, one criminal offense. But that's not the case in what the public schools are producing. Not because the public schools are bad. There's over 1 million kids in the public schools. Probably 97.5% of them are fine, upstanding young people from fine homes. But there's no room for that kind of activity. It's not encouraged as being legitimate or encouraged as a person appropriately expressing themselves by getting involved in a life of crime.
I hear you. So hopefully you'll get that opportunity to go onto that show and
I'll let you know.
Speak your mind.
I said to him, I can't be there at 2 a.m. Especially last night. I can't be there at 2 a.m. He says I could do it over the phone. So he said, "Well, is 4 a.m. easier for you?"
Is it?
I don't know. I don't think 4 a.m. is much easier.
The interesting halacha today is Isser Chag, as discussed previously in a different post. Rabbi Yecheskel Hartman says the day after Yom Tov is called Isser Chag. There is a mitzvah to eat and drink on this day. One who does this is considered as if he brought a korban to Hashem. The reason for this is that one who shows simcha on this day is connecting the impact of the Yom Tov to the weekday, because Isser Chag has somewhat of a Yom Tov status. We do not say Lam Netzeach during Shacharis. Wow, so it's a mitzvah to eat and drink today.
There's a lot of diets starting today.
Well, I guess not anymore.
Well, there's a lot of diets starting today. Of course, you cannot eat today on the pace that you've eaten over the last few weeks.
You know what? I think someone would accept that challenge.
What?
I again, like I said, I think people they're hungry. Like they didn't eat since yesterday, and they're hungry, and maybe they're not going to eat such a big meal at 1 p.m. like they did yesterday, or at 9 p.m.
When you think back to yourself as you're sitting there on Tuesday afternoon, and you're having brisket and
you know what,
pastrami and corned beef and potato kugel and lakshan kugel, and it's Tuesday afternoon at 2 or 3 o'clock. You never do that on a Tuesday afternoon.
I know, and then if you do that, then you're certainly not eating the rest of the day. But then you are there again 7 hours later having dinner. It's a little bit wild. Today also is the Yartzeit of the Ribnitizer, and I'll show a video right over here. Mm-hmm. That video is the lines of cars waiting to go into the Tzion of the Ribnitizer Rebbe.
Does it say how many years?
I don't know.
It must be 20, 25 years, I would bet.
Yeah?
At least.
I don't see how many years.
I know you told me, I told the story that I met him 35 years ago.
Ribnitizer Rebbe.
I told you that whole story. I went to Seagate and Mordechai Ben David.
He brought you in.
He brought me in, and he told me to daven very late. He told me to daven at noontime. So I got there, figured, who davens at noontime? So I got there 11:30 and the place was locked. Nobody showed up till like 12:45.
Oh, really? I guess you should have taken him seriously.
I don't think the Rebbe was there today. I came there to daven Seagate. I had to go back one evening to meet him. And actually, he took he asked Ima to take off a necklace and give it to him, and he held the necklace in his hand and closed his eyes and said something, and then gave it back to her.
Does she still have that necklace?
I don't know. Probably.
Probably?
You have to ask her.
Okay. I'm going to. Here, another picture. We have so much to catch up on. Here's a picture of Rabbi Yossi Akatinsky, Rabbi Moshe Weimaker, at the Simchas Shuvah in Eish Kodesh, between KMH and Eish Kodesh for the Five Towns community. I was not there. I was in Muncie, but had a lot of people there, and it looked pretty fun, pretty lebedik.
I was in and out of KMH over the last couple of days. I was there last night for the Nidos HaChag. very, very warm. Just great words of wisdom from the rabbi, and attracting a lot of young people,
Yeah.
and really reaching into a lot of people's hearts and souls, from what I could see.
It's beautiful. So I think that's pretty much our episode for today. We're back to life. We're back to regular life. Everyone's back
Regular
to work.
schedule, Monday through Thursday.
Monday through Thursday. We'll be back at you with another episode tomorrow. We're going to have to figure out, if you're going to Florida next week, we have to figure out how we're going to keep it up.
You tell me. You're the technological genius.
We just might have to fly a camera crew down with you, because I don't really have so much faith in you being able to.
Well, why can't I just set up my iPad and do a split screen?
I guess we could.
Like you did at one of the.
I guess the audio.
things.
Am I going to send you a mic?
I don't know.
Maybe I'll get someone down there to help you out.
Why don't we try it out here in New York before I go down, so we can see how it works?
Maybe we'll discuss it off the air.
Okay, very good. Great to be back.
Alrighty.
Great to see you.
Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.